Yeah, the media.
Okay, this video is about representation, and we look at representation in the BTEC units in assignment 12, task 2 and 3, which for most people is unit 7, part 2 and unit 7.3. This bit's going to look at the case study. The case study is where you can get more marks. You can start moving on to getting a distinction grade because you're going into a little bit more depth. We're going to look at Sherlock Holmes, which is on the BBC fairly recently at the time of recording this, and we're going to look particularly at homosexuality and the representation of homosexuality within this scene.
Hi, so you're Sherlock Holmes. Wally's told me all about you. Are you on one of your cases?
Jim works in IT upstairs. That's how we met. Office romance.
Gay.
Sorry, what?
Nothing, hey.
Hey. Sorry. Well, I'd better be off. I'll see you at the Fox, about 6-ish?
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
It was nice to meet you.
He's not.
With that level of personal grooming?
Because he puts a bit of product in his hair. I put product in my hair.
Wash your hair, there's a difference. No, tinted eyelashes, clear signs of touring cream around the frown lines, those tired crabber's eyes.
Then there's his underwear.
His underwear?
Visible above the waistline, very visible, very particular brand. That plus the extremely suggestive fact that he just left his number under this dish here, and I'd say you better break.
Okay, so what we've got to do is a bit of research and find out about the guidelines of the BBC. So I've gone onto the bbc.co.uk editorial guidelines here, and it's got a long list of the different guidelines that the BBC have to adhere to. They're a little bit stricter than other channels. If you choose a different clip or whatever, and you want to go to another channel, they all have to adhere to the Ofcom broadcast codes, and you can get them from this link up here, or broadcast codes Ofcom, and you'll get to this section here, which is very similar to the BBC, but the BBC are a little bit stricter. And if you scroll down the BBC's guidelines, you can see the section 5, harm and offence, and that's the one that we're looking at really in terms of portrayal or representation, as we call it. So if we click on that, we can go into the portrayal section, and then we can consider whether the Sherlock Holmes episode was being unfair and pushing the boundaries or not. I think, where are we? In here, content may reflect the prejudice and disadvantage which exists in societies worldwide, but we should not perpetuate it. So it's this perpetuating it, sort of pushing the stereotypes and suggesting that is normal and it's okay to push those stereotypes. And in some ways, I think it was pushing stereotypes. Perhaps it was perpetuating it by saying that the fact that he put product in his hair meant he was gay, and had his underwear showing with the brand name made it seem that he was gay. And it does say, it goes on to say, in some instances, references to disability, age, sexual orientation, which we're covering here, faith, race, etc., may be relevant to portrayal. However, we should avoid careless or offensive stereotypical assumptions, and people should only be described in such terms when editorially justified. So the stereotypical assumptions that I feel are kind of being made here and heightened and perpetuated in this instance. This episode of Sherlock is really pushing the boundaries here. So what you've got to consider, would gay people find this offensive? Would they mind these stereotypes being used? And I would suggest they probably would. The real twist, I suppose, is that later on we find that this person wasn't gay at all and he was pretending to be gay. I'm not sure whether that justifies editorially this stereotypical assumptions that were being perpetuated or not. What makes it even more confusing in some ways with this, and I'm not sure if this is really that relevant, but it's an interesting discussion. Andrew Scott, the guy who plays the gay person in this scene, who also turns out to be Moriarty, a bit of a spoiler there, is in fact gay. So he's actually a gay person playing a straight person pretending to be a gay person. It does kind of bring up these issues in terms of people from a certain culture or sexual orientation taking the mick out of themselves and that being okay. Personally, I'm not sure that is, but you do often see black comedians doing that, like The Big Bang with Raj making Indian jokes, or Wolowitz making Jewish jokes, and that seems to be acceptable, and it's sort of like self-deprecating humour, and that's okay in some ways. I still think it could cause offence, so I don't think that's justified. But maybe the fact that they're trying to suggest that those stereotypes were being used against Sherlock, in a sense, it was too obvious and he fell for it, and maybe that we should learn from these stereotypes and not to judge people by their appearance. Perhaps that's what the BBC could argue that they're doing here. However, if the BBC keep highlighting these differences, is that going to affect people's opinions, and are people still going to look at those stereotypes, make a joke out of it? So is it still ethical for the BBC to use this stereotype as they do many others? Those are the sort of things that you need to discuss in your essays. To try and push it to get that distinction grade, you need to do your research, and you have to start discussing these points and trying to really go into more depth, understanding how channels are pushing the boundaries and how the audience is reacting to those.